and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
This week is all about the Black Widow. We finally get a long-anticipated, highly demanded standalone movie for Scarlett Johansson's Avenger. Given by now we all know Black Widow's ultimate fate in Endgame, she was not one of the returned. The movie takes place in the time between Captain America's Civil War and the Avengers Infinity War. It's during this time, I feel that for the first time, we actually introduced to Natasha Romanoff's life and get an understanding into how she actually became the Black Widow. So, Tammy, what did you think of the Black Widow?
It was really good. I was very excited about the movie. Black Widow is number 2 after Wonder Woman. So when I heard that she was going to be the first official spinoff, because they had like Ant-Man and the Wasp, but that one doesn't count because it was only like half. And she wasn't like the star of the movie even. But yeah, I was very excited about it. And it was worth the watch. It was worth the watch. What about you?
I agree. I was really excited. I am one of the ones who have been demanding, wanting, calling for a spinoff. I actually signed petitions a long time ago to get an Avengers, a Black Widow spinoff back when it was demanded. I think after she was introduced, especially during the second Iron Man or the first Avengers, somewhere in between there. There was a really fever pitch demand for the Black Widow to get her own movie, and I'm excited. I'm happy that it came. I feel like it's long overdue, and I also feel like that Scarlett Johansson got the short end of the stick with this, even though she's made plenty of money off of the Avengers. Even though she was an executive producer on the Black Widow, I feel like the character got shortchanged, and I hate that they waited till the end to tell her story. And it seemed like in doing that, they had to try to fit so much into this movie. They did a good job of doing that, but there are times and things I think were rushed, and it left me wanting more of the original Black Widow. So it was a catch-22 for me with that.
How was she shortchanged?
Because I think that the character itself deserved more. I think the Black Widow deserved more screen time. She deserved to stand on her own more, just like Ant-Man, Black Panther, Thor, Iron Man. It's a shame that she doesn't get her own series of movies. She's always been a co-star in the other movies, and her one time to shine is this one singular movie. And the way they had to do it, which I think was brilliant, but they had to fit it in a time to where it makes sense for her to have been alive. So that's how I think she was shortchanged. Everyone else gets a series of movies to tell their own standalone stories, but this was her one standalone story, and we know that there will not be any more Black Widow movies because ultimately she did not survive Endgame.
Okay.
So, yeah. And, what did you think about her backstory?
I mean, everybody knows her backstory. So, I will say that I really, really enjoyed her backstory. I was about to say black story. Just because you know that she was a widow, and like you kind of get an idea of what went into that. But I loved her family dynamics and her sister dynamics on her, like really being forced into accepting the fact that they were her family. May not be the one that she necessarily chose, but they were her family. So overall, I liked her backstory. I love the whole movie. I thought they did a really good job of, because basically this is kind of an origin, but a little bit on what happens after the Avengers break up. So I thought they did a really good job on the continuation of kind of showing where she started, what happened if she had stayed in the Widow program, as well as like who she became. All right. And she had her own life before she joined the Avengers, and she had her own life even after when the Avengers broke up. So I like the whole dynamics of the whole movie.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I think for them having to rush and put all of that into one movie, they did a great job. It didn't necessarily seem rushed, in the sense that you felt like they were just trying to cram it all in there. I like how they how they took their time and they told that story. But again, I think it would have been served us, the fan base, better if they had done it over a series of movies or different things. And I did love the family dynamic. I loved the family reunion, and I liked the quote unquote passing of the torch, which I guess we can get to a little bit later. But I love David Harbour as her quote unquote dad and the Russian version of Captain America. I like him as an actor, so I thought the movie was perfectly cast. Actually, they did a really great job with the casting. And At first, when we first meet her family in Ohio, I honestly thought that that was her. Like, it took me a moment to realize, oh my God, the whole family was a cover. Like, you hear about them sending Russian spies and families of spies, but you didn't. It took me a moment to realize, wait, they created this whole family dynamic. Like, all of them were spies in their own rights, and just the way that they started those kids off so young, it was just like, wow. um, so I didn't realize that the kids themselves were actually more or less marks until I was like, wait a minute, he's letting them take his kids, which didn't seem so abnormal to me just because, but then once you realize that, oh my God, they weren't actually his kids, I was like, shit, that's cold. But, um, let's see. So what did you think about the casting?
It was okay. I will say that I wasn't too thrilled about the mom casting. I like her, but I'm not a fan of her acting necessarily. So, overall, they had great chemistry together. They did have really, really good chemistry. I think that the best chemistry was, what's her name? Florence, I think it is.
Florence Pugh?
Yeah. Not her last name. But yeah, like Florence and Scarlett had really, really good chemistry on being sisters. Especially like Florence playing the younger annoying sister, who makes fun of her sister, but at the same time you want to be just like her, kind of thing. So I thought, like, yeah, I thought definitely her sister was a great casting. Like, I think Florence is definitely an up and comer, and I can't wait to see what happens when she like joins the team, as it looks like she's going to end up doing.
Yeah, and so I I like Rachel Weisz. I actually liked her character. I thought that the casting was great, and I loved. I I think I may be alone in this, but if you can't do a full on Black Widow, another movie, and I am interested to see where they go with Florence Pugh's character, and how they integrate her into the series. I would actually love to see maybe a standalone movie or perhaps a series about the Black Widows themselves, like what happens to the program now. I think that would be really interesting, and that's just my own personal side note. I love kick-ass women, and I love to see women being able to get out and take charge and kick ass. Um, but one of my favorite characters was Mason, played by OT, and I cannot say his name at all, but the black dude, the British dude, not her handler, but her go-to guy, the guy who got her everything she needed, the plane and her passports and all that kind of stuff, who was always helping her set up her cover identities and stuff like that. I loved him. I thought he was a great sense of comic relief, and he kind of gives you an idea, like you said, into who she was outside of being an Avenger, and how she did keep ties to her old life. I thought their dynamic was pretty cool too.
I agree. I think that he did a really, really good job. Um at first I was very suspicious of him because when the generator went out after a couple hours, I was like, hold up. I said, so you an assassin and you an Avenger and you can't even find nobody to trust to like just give you a generator that works on a regular. So at first I thought it was just like, oh shoot, like did he set her up? And then you realize like no, he didn't set her up. It was just that he gave her a shitty generator for the trailer that he ended up providing for her. But I love their dynamics as well. It was kind of like they like each other, but they ain't never gonna get together kind of vibe that they were giving off. They just was really good friends who like she was like, I don't have friends, but he's just like, yes, you do. I'm your friend. So definitely love the dynamics of her and what was his name in the movie?
Mason.
Her and Mason. And even when Yelena got in and she started to talk about his skills, and he was like, don't question my skills. And she was just like, you are very sensitive. So yeah.
You kind of get the vibe that he was way more into her. Like if she'd ever given him the indication that they could go there, that they could cross that line, oh, he would have been there so fast.
But you get the I feel like with Black Widow, she holds her feelings very, very close to the vest. Very, very close to the vest. And so I got the vibe that she also liked him, but she would never go there with him. Like that was just something that she was never going to do. But it's kind of like the little looks that she gave him, like kind of made a little bit of an undertone on knowing that like they liked each other. I don't know how far the liking went, but they definitely liked each other. Like it wasn't like one-sided. But like nothing would ever happen, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with that because too many times they fall into this romance thing because they pass Black Widow around like crazy during the Avengers time.
She was just a woman who was very in tune with her sexuality, and she liked men, but also I was going to say on that note that you got the feeling through the movies that once her and Cap figured out that they were just going to be the very best of friends, that the love of her life, her quote unquote soulmate, was the Incredible Hulk. Was Hulk.
That is absolute lie. That's a lie.
That's what they were trying.
They were trying to sell that, but I hate the fact that they turned that into some kind of thing because nobody ever fell for it. Nobody fell for that nonsense on her and the Hulk. That is not the love of her life. Whew. Sorry, I feel very passionate about that.
I see. I wasn't sold on it. I was okay with it, especially once you realize that they were going to actually introduce Hawkeye's family. In the beginning, before you realize that his family, that they were going to keep the family alive and actually introduce them in later movies in the series, then I was actually off for her and Hawkeye at first. But once they went and you got the idea that her and Cap were never going to happen, then I was like, okay, if this is where they're going to go, I wasn't just going to pick it apart. But no, her and the Hulk was not necessarily my first or favorite pairing either. So I think, again, if we had been graced with more movies, then they could have actually found her a legitimate love interest somewhere through that, or we could have seen what her love life was. Even though you are absolutely correct, she did keep her feelings and play it very, very close to the vest. There had to have been someone that besides the Hulk who kind of broke through that armor a little bit in her life. So that would have been something I would have been interested in seeing as well from her. So
what's your favorite part of the movie?
My favorite part of the movie, was probably when she and actually met up for the first time, and they were in the apartment in, was it Belgrade? Yeah, I think it was Belgrade. When they were in the apartment in Belgrade, and they were just
Budapest?
Budapest, yeah. I'm horrible with names. I knew it began with a B, so I get credit for that. but yeah, when they were in the apartment in Budapest and they were just going their hello and their welcome home to each other was just like, oh wow, yeah, they're sisters. And at first it's like, well, are y'all gonna kill each other? Is this your way of saying hi? Is this love taps? Like what? And so that was probably one of my favorite parts. I love the action. I also like the scene in the prison when they were breaking Alexei out of prison. That was funny. What
He's
was
an idiot.
yours?
He's an idiot.
He was an
I
idiot.
I think my favorite parts was just her and Yelena together. Like the whole movie with them interacting, the emotional aspects of it that they brought in, her slowly becoming in tune again to the emotions of her sister and understanding like what she went through because you basically left her behind, kind of thing. Like I just love the whole sister dynamic. Not necessarily, not to say the family dynamic wasn't, great, because it was, but what's more important and what I think really sold the movie for me overall was her and her sister, and how they kind of went from, she's like, you're not my sister, and she's just like, what, to like, we're family and we're in this together, and we're going to survive this and everything like that. So I think my favorite part was just the overall sister bond that they had.
Yeah, they did have amazing chemistry, and that is, I think, one of the most perfect castings as far as the movie goes. The chemistry between those two, and also I think going in, we knew that this would be the only Black Widow movie in this sense, featuring the original Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow, and we all kind of knew that okay, they were teaming it up for Florence Pugh to take over the role in some way, shape, or form. And I was a little skeptical, not because I don't think Florence Pugh is a great actress. She is. She's on that up and coming list, and she's one of those who can take any role and seems to be able to make it her own. But it was just, I wonder how they're going to handle the passing of this torch. And it's Marvel, so 9 times out of 10 they get more right, at least on the screen, than they get wrong. And so, but with this being such a beloved character and this movie being so anticipated, it was just like, how are they going to do this? And I thought they did it masterfully. And seeing the stakes, and understanding, like you said, the growth of the character between um, Yelena's forgiveness of her, for leaving her behind, and the understanding of ultimately, okay, maybe why she couldn't go with her, to um, understanding, to actually also forgiving her family, and to come to that point of understanding, to Natasha's understanding of, yeah, this is my family. And family isn't just always blood. It is a lot more than the Avengers, who she would readily call her family. But these people who, I spent a very, I guess, the happiest time of her childhood. I think someone says that. Yelena says it. The best time of my life, the happiest time of my childhood was pretend, or it was fake. And you get the feeling that that was the same thing for Natasha's character. So that was really cool too. So what do you think? How do you think Yelena is going to be as the next Black Widow?
She'll do fine. She got all the skills. She's smart like her sister is. She's been trained extremely well for decades by that Widow program. So I think she's going to do a great job on taking over the mantle from Scarlett Johansson, because Scarlett Johansson is kind of like Robert Downey Jr., right? Like so, and Chris Evans, because I think it's those three who have really like just kind of stepped aside, although they're trying to bring back Chris Evans. So yeah, I think she's gonna do a great job. I'm excited to see, because they say she's supposed to show up in the Hawkeye series. So I'm excited to see like how that plays out with her going after Bart, like that whole dynamic of her and Barton, knowing that Barton is basically like her sister's best friend. And then she's going to be introduced in that series. And then hopefully if that works out, then she'll be transferred into the, what is it, phase 4 they're on? They're going to be starting. I believe it's phase 4 they're going to be starting on, I think.
Yeah, we're in the middle of phase 4. So yeah, you kind of get from the end of the movie that I was excited because I kind of got from the end, the mid-credit scene or the end credit scene, that she was going to be in a Hawkeye series, that's where they would probably feature that character or introduce her more as her own character, so to speak. And I guess we get to see the evolution. But I was also intrigued that we were reintroduced to a character that we met um, in the Falcon and Winter Soldier character, and that's the character I loved, who you didn't care much for. But that was Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. I guess we can call her, what was her name? Victoria or something like that. I call her
Valentina.
Valent. Okay, well, it started with a V. I was close. I'm getting better. I was just gonna call her
close, Eddie.
Hey, I'm getting close. At least I'm in the same alphabet range. We know I'm horrible with names. I'm sorry. I'll write it down and I'll still mess it up. But, I'm even looking at the freaking casting and I still get it wrong. So, hey, I'm just horrible with names. But the V lady, who I call Madam X anyway, because that's how I remember people, I give them nicknames so I don't have to worry about messing up their real name. But yeah, I was like, okay, so I'm still interested to see what her end game is. And I don't know enough about the comic book lore and the whole backstory of all the 50 million different Marvel universes that they seem to intertwine to know. But I just want to say, it seems like she's building an anti-Shield. Like, she's not quite Nick Fury Shield, but she's building something that's not Shield, but she still wants to take over the world, and so she's recruiting her own group of superheroes or to do that. So it will be interesting to see how these quote unquote new Avengers end up going head to head with the Avengers that are left, the old school Avengers that are left. And someone was also saying, I think I read somewhere where this might also be an introduction to the teen Avengers or something like that. So we will see what happens. But yeah, it makes me more interested in the Hawkeye series. Like I'm more interested to see how that's going to work out and what is going to be, because I love Hawkeye. He's like one of my favorite Avengers. And but I want to know. Okay, so do you think that she should get her own series or her own movie?
No, why? Why? She don't need it.
Why not?
You talking about Yelena?
Yeah, eventually, if it works out.
Why?
Why not?
Because she's a nobody.
Well, I think, how is she a nobody? She's about to be the next freaking Black Widow.
But she's a nobody. She just happens to have the title Black Widow. Now, if you were saying like Scarlett Johansson, does she deserve to get, and Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, who's the original, should get her own series, I'd be like, yeah, I'm down for that. But Yelena as Black Widow is a nobody. She has to put in her stripes just like everybody else. So no, she don't get no series until she proves that this is a role that she can control away from Scarlett Johansson.
Okay, so let me rephrase. Eventually, I didn't mean like next week, Disney or Marvel should greenlight a new Black Widow series starring Florence Pugh. I mean, eventually, do you think she would be worthy of her own series? From what you've seen so far, I know it's a bit early.
No, not until I see how she is in the whole Marvel universe. Now, this was one movie, so I'm on the fence of like, you still got to prove yourself. Like, she did a great job, and I loved her in the role. I love Florence in the role. I love Yelena, the character. I think she did a really, really good job. The character development was great, but no, she has to prove herself. She got to prove that she can be a part of the Marvel universe completely before she gets her own movie. That's just my opinion. Like, we just not throwing out TV series and movies like that.
Hmm. I agree, but I disagree.
Of course. What do you agree with, Eddie?
I agree that, yeah, like I said originally, it shouldn't be something that's greenlit overnight and next week we get a whole series or a movie starring, Florence Pugh's the Black Widow when it took you 20 years to give, literally not 20 years, but it took you forever to give Scarlett Johansson her own movie and then you do it as her swan song. That sucked. So I think that would be a slap in the face. But do I think the character herself wants more of a story? Yes, I do. And maybe, like I said, if it's in a Black Widow series or if it's her being featured in other series, which I know she will be, just for the simple fact that, especially if she's aligned with Valentina, I got it right, who I call Madam X, then that we're going to see more of her. Probably like we will also see more of Wyatt Russell's Captain Doofus, who's supposed to be, I don't know,
why you call him
whatever,
Captain Doofus?
because he was a doofus like that.
Eddie, you harsh.
The dude was a doofus. Like he was your tip.
Y'all, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that, y'all.
Well, my bad. I was gonna call him Captain Douche Bro because he was pretty much like that douche bro, just hyped up on steroids.
Now, I may agree with you on the douche part, but not the doofus part.
So just seeing how they align and what role they're actually going to play, whether they're good guys, bad guys, somewhere in between. Like, I'm really interested to find out.
So you don't know who Valentina is, her character?
No, like
okay.
I have to
Valentina, she's a double agent. So she worked for SHIELD when it was beneficial to her. She spied on Hydra when it was beneficial to her. Then she started to work for Hydra. And then she would report back to SHIELD. She's a double agent. So she was a double agent who moved up in the ranks. And they kind of say she is a mystery, that is her thing, because you never know exactly where she stands on any type of issue. So you won't know until she tells you exactly what she's trying to do. But in the comic lore, she's supposed to be a double agent, she worked for SHIELD, but she's also worked for Hydra.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. So, and that's the vibe I get from her now. It's like you don't know which side she's on, and so all of these people that she's recruiting, it's like, okay, which side is she on? And it's like, all right, now, and I guess that's what I'm interested in, and I would be interested in, and I know they won't necessarily tell us during the Hawkeye series, is how did Valentina and Yelena connect after Natasha or the Black Widow's death? How did that come into being? Because by the time we see the end credits scene, you get the feeling that Yelena had been working for Valentina. That it's well after Endgame. The returned have been returned. And that Natasha is dead. So it's like, and now why are you turning her on Clint, who you said she already knows, or we would hope that she knows, is one of her sister's best friends? Like, Clint was probably the one person, if you had to say, if she had to just straight up claim as family from day one to day 2000, it would have been Clint. Like, Clint was her ride or die. So, it's like, okay, what has he done? Why are you turning him on her or turning her on him? And basically, because she's lethal, like she straight up lethal. I would be interested in seeing all of that. I'm a sucker for backstories, I guess. So, since we talked about it, what do you hope to see from the Hawkeye series, I guess, or from the Black Widow character, or where do you hope they go with Black Widow? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea. I really don't like put thought into it. Like, I mean, I just want her to continue to be as badass as she's always been. Yelena was a badass before she met up with her sister, and I hope as she takes over the mantle of Black Widow, because that is the hint that's been given throughout the movie, that she is going to take over the mantle, that she continues to be the badass that, you know, we loved when it was Natasha playing as the Black Widow. So that would be my whole thing. Like, I don't have an actual like idea of what I definitely need to see, because I'll be honest, besides the movie and a couple of, you know, instances where I've read up, I don't really know the Black Widow's full story. So I don't know what direction they can go in for the character, because I don't know her full backstory and everything like that. So I just like to see her continue to be the badass and you know, doing what she needs to do.
Yep. And you said the reason why they needed more movies before now, so we would have had more of an idea of
Y'all have to
backstory.
beg for this movie though. Like, I
I
mean, I
know.
get the idea of like wanting it, but you know, like we talked about this during our Marvel and DC conversation on how like male dominated it is, that they had to beg for a Black Widow movie, and we only got it after she died. So I'm just like being realistic on Marvel's gonna do how Marvel makes money, and it just doesn't feel like women are gonna sell as much as the men.
Well, in a post-pandemic age, this movie, it actually did better opening domestically than the Fast and the Furious as far as the opening weekend here in the States. And also, I think, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Disney, they kind of pulled an okey doke. They had led everyone to believe that they weren't going to show it on Disney Plus, that they weren't going to do the Disney Plus thing, and they did. And it made $60 million on Disney Plus. The best selling movie that they've had. They've done Cruella, they've done all of their other movies on Disney Plus. So this was and so now this movie alone has kind of flipped the game, and it's got everybody thinking, is this hybrid theater thing really going to work? And it shows that, hey, if it's a movie that people want to see, especially with Rona and her stupid mutated ass cousin, Delta, ripping through the world again, that, yeah, people will pay the money to see something, to see a good product that's been put out there. So on its face, this movie was a game changer, and it's a movie about a woman. So I think that it's
it's
time
a
that.
it's a it's a Marvel superhero movie though. Like, you
But
also got to think of it. It's a movie about a woman who is a Marvel's event, who's an Avenger. So at the end of the day, like, I don't like I'm not gonna act shocked at the fact that it did as well as it did. And I'm
but
not gonna put it up to like, oh well, you know, I mean, this is amazing because, you know, it's a feat. Like, I mean, I
but
get
that's
what you're trying to say. I just it doesn't hit me as hard, just because like it's a Marvel movie. It's gonna sell no matter what.
but again, it's one of the best selling or best opening Marvel movies or movies during its time. And it does feature a woman as its lead. So, again, on the face domestically for opening weekend, it did better than the Fast and the Furious. So I mean, I get what you're saying, but it is a Marvel superhero movie. But let's face it, it's a Marvel superhero movie about a woman. It's the movie that people had been demanding for so long. So we have to get out of that mindset that women as action heroes. I've seen more, and I feel like I've commented more about women kicking butt in movies and women taking over that mantle. That we show that we can sell as action heroes. We can play those male-dominated roles, and it's time. And we will go out and see that. It's time that they stop putting us in that box, so to say, that, oh, this won't sell because it's a woman. It's that same, it goes back to that same dynamic that they use, or that same excuse that they used to use, and they still try to use somewhat, that Black people don't sell overseas. You don't know until you try. So I think I credit them with that, and I give kudos to that. And I still say it's a Marvel movie, but it's a Marvel movie featuring a female lead, and a lead that people have been asking for so long. And I would love to see I think if it weren't for the situation in the world, for this being, a pandemic, I'm not even going to say post pandemic because shit, we're still right in the middle of it. I think it might have even done better if it weren't for that. But for it to make $60 million at $30 a pop on Disney Plus, that's amazing. Um, so, obviously people wanted to see that. So kudos to them. And I agree. I don't know. Um, I've already said I want to see more of Yelena. I want to see more of how they utilize the character. I think they did a great job of distinguishing her as her own character and not just another clone of the Black Widow. You know that she will do some things differently than her sister. And I think she's a little bit more emotional than her sister, and that's one thing I noticed. That once that mind wipe came off, when she had the antitoxin or took the antidote or inhaled it, she was more emotional and more open with her emotions than Natasha was. So I look forward to seeing how that plays out, and I am looking forward to seeing her in Hawkeye and the evolution of this new character, and if she will take on the mantle of Black Widow or if they will give her a name of her own or what happens from there. So, what would you rate it, or do you have any other comments before we get to the rating?
No, I don't. I would end up rating it 4.25. I thought it was a great movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I saw it twice. And I loved it both times, focused on it both times. I can't think of a boring part of the movie. Like from beginning to end, it was action through and through. It kept your interest from beginning to end, and I really, really love that. The casting, I love the sister, the black guy. What is it, Mason? Is that his name?
Yes.
Okay, there I go now with no names. But yeah, so I think overall, like I enjoyed the movie. Like we waited over a year for this movie to come out, and it was definitely, definitely worth the wait. And if it wasn't for fucking Rona, I would have loved to see how much more successful the movie would have been without the virus taking over the world.
Yeah, I think I like I said, I think it would have done much better than 80 million opening, which is nothing to scarf at, that was just domestic. We haven't gotten to worldwide numbers or anything like that. So I would have loved to see what it would have been like in quote unquote normal times too, what it could have done. And we agree on something else. I also rated it a 4.25. So I am, and I wanted to give it more, but I'm sorry. I'm blaming Marvel for me not giving it more, just because I hate that it took so long to make this movie and that we only get one movie uh, with the OG Black Widow and her character, and I still think that she got the short end of the stick. But the movie, for what it was great. I highly, highly recommend it. It's definitely one that will go in my personal library once it gets onto, digital and we can buy it. I loved it that much, and I will add it to my rotation. So the next time, for those of you who watch Marvel movies in their actual chronological order and not their release order, this one would go in between Civil War and Infinity War. I've watched them both ways. Yeah, I'm a nerd like that. Sorry. Okay. Stop rolling your eyes at me through the internet. Okay. I'm sensitive.
Okay.
I know when you're rolling your, wait till we go video. Then you can roll your eyes at me through the
I'm still.
internet. But I can
Yeah.
see you and the people can see you and they'll know what
It's
I'm talking
okay.
about.
That you know that don't make no difference to me.
But still, they can feel my pain. I won't be alone in this. So that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop, pop, pop. Our anniversary is coming up soon. Tammy has promised to get me that popcorn sound effect. Yay! Yay! Why am I alone in that? Yay. Anyway, thank you. And as
Because I ain't
always,
never promised it to you.
you did too. I'm sure. Roll the tape back. Our imaginary producer, I'm going to find the tape. Thank you as always, and be sure to join us next week when we discuss another Marvel Universe favorite who finally gets his own standalone series, the one, the only Loki. Yay!
Yay.
I'm excited about that one. I'm really interested to see what you have to say about Loki and the sexiness that is Tom Hiddleston. So until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.